Welcome, Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, to your November 2025 horoscope. I'm Sarah at Life with Training Wheels, where I utilize a Western Tropical Zodiac Astrology, whole sign house system, and other tools to help guide you on your journey of self-discovery and self-empowerment. My goal is to help you realize that life really is a choose-your-own adventure. You have more control over your life and your thoughts than you think you do, and we really do make this world our reality. One of my favorite quotes is, "Wherever you go, there you are." So if you keep finding yourself in certain situations, good or bad, it may be a time to look into the mirror. If that sounds like something you want to stick around for, a vibe that you can vibe with, then I encourage you to stick around. If this is your first time finding me, thank you for joining me, and I hope you'll stay. If you are returning, thank you so much for returning. Either way, if you could go ahead and engage with this video in some way, like, subscribe, comment, anything like that, it will help my tiny channel grow, and I greatly appreciate it. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into today's astrology. I do have a Your First Astrology course going on right now. It's a 6-week course. I've only emailed out the first course, or the first week's module, and that module is about just learning how to pull up your natal chart, as well as I walk through several tools, several different free websites and an app that I use on my phone as an astrologer, and what I get out of it. Then the other weeks are going to be talking about, how the astrology wheel is set up, what all the little glyphs mean. We're going to look at houses, signs, planets, how to put them all together and read them together, and then look at your rising, moon and sun sign. And then from there, I'm gonna teach you how to take videos like this, or more general collective videos, and apply it to your own astrology chart. So this is a beginner's astrology course. You don't need any experience to join, and that is going on now. And I just email out the videos, and then you email back questions, and then from there we can, do another video specifically answering the questions, or whatever we need to do. This class is yours, not mine, so I want you to get the most out of it. I'm also trying to start a Patreon membership that is kind of like a getting to know yourself better monthly membership, where each month I'm going to be teaching a different topic of your natal chart and what it might mean for you, different placements and elements and things like that. And so each month you would get a 20-minute reading on your natal chart, so it's on that topic. So it's kind of, like I said, a getting to know you better monthly subscription. I hope you'll join me for either of those, and the links for those will be in the description box below. And if you're not interested in those but do want to help me in my growth of this channel, as well as this does take a lot of time, there is a link to just simply buy me a coffee. Anything you can contribute or want to donate, I would again be so grateful. Okay, so anyway, let's start getting into the astrology. So if you haven't seen, I have done a collective reading for this month's astrology, and I will link to it right here. I highly recommend you watch that before you watch this, simply because there are a few things that I'm not going to be repeating. The main thing is that Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto are only moving 1 degree, or not even an entire degree, this whole month. They're staying within the same degree. So what I do in that collective reading is I look at those particular degree points and look up and read the Sabian symbol meanings for those. And Sabian symbol meanings for each degree kind of gives a more holistic view of what we're being asked collectively and individually to look at, and like where we are on our evolution's path at this moment of time. And it adds a lot. So I do encourage you to go watch it. The other thing, if you aren't sure how to pull up your natal chart and want to see, if you have any planets or points engaging with this month in particular, I do have a link, a video that I will link right here that teaches you how to pull up your natal chart for free. So check those out, and now let's get into it. So just in case you are not going to watch the collective reading, I will briefly go over the main astrology that I see of this month. And the biggest thing is that all month long we're going to be having a grand water trine. Water is the element that asks us to go with the flow. So we're being asked to go with the flow this month. That's the main message. Water is also very emotional, so we might be a little bit more emotional this month. It's also more intuitive, though, so you may be getting more dreams happening. You may be just feeling like your intuition is more on point. You might suddenly know things or suddenly feel things as perhaps psychic senses come online for you. So those are some things that we could see this month that's really exciting. A lot of Jupiter is involved in this, so there is a lot of opportunity and blessings and abundance perhaps available for us this month with this Water Grand Trine. Sometimes when things are flowing so easily and so nicely, we might miss seeing the opportunities because everything just feels easy. So we might miss the opportunity to take action on something and really get the blessings that are trying to come to us. So a lot of times when there's a lot of trine or sextile energy, you need some type of friction, either to help you see the blessings or to just provide like an action point, right? And luckily this month there are two things that are happening, two main points of challenge, I guess, that are happening all month long that may help us activate those things. So one is a square between Jupiter and Chiron in Aries, and we'll look to see where that is, but that is providing a lot of healing opportunity for your I am wounds, where you've kept yourself small for the sake of others and things of that nature. And that in and of itself may help activate or capitalize on the blessings that are trying to come to you. The other thing is in Scorpio, the thing that's keeping this Grand Trine active is the parade of personal planets going through Scorpio this month. And those parade of planets are all going to be making an opposition to Uranus. So Uranus is the planet of where we break out of the box, where we want to do things differently, sudden things happening in our world, I would say to us, but I don't subscribe to that. Everything happens for us. Sometimes we just can't get out of our own way, so the universe has to shake things up to get us out of our own way. And it can also be the planet of like sudden insights coming in, sudden knowingness. So those types of things can be activated for you. So now let's go ahead and pull up your chart and look to see what's going on. Okay, so Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. I have your chart on the screen. And so according to this Water Grand Trine that we have all month long, you are going to have a very social month, as the water signs are hitting your social houses, the 3rd, the 7th, and the 11th. So all these are very social houses. They're all about communication and relationships and how you interact with your closest people, your neighborhood, your community, and just the overall groups that you are involved with. So let's go ahead and move through one by one. First, I want to talk about where Jupiter is for you. So Jupiter is in your 11th house right here in Cancer. And Jupiter is the planet of luck and abundance and opportunity and growth. And whatever it touches, it expands. So it is expanding your 11th house, which is all about your friendships, your the groups that you belong to. So, if you belong to any organization or volunteer somewhere, or those types of organizations are under the 11th house. The 11th house is also where we kind of hold our hopes and dreams for the future. It's very future oriented looking, as well as it's kind of where, because all the houses are on polarity, so it's opposite of 5th house. 5th house is all about our joy, our creativity, and really us diving into who we are and at our core and who we love to be. And the 11th house is how we bring our true selves out and share our true selves and bring the gifts of us into the world, into humanity. So you overall, with Jupiter being here, might be just being very well received by the world at large and by your community and everything like that. And then the other thing that the 11th house can represent, which is pretty cool because it brings luck and abundance, the 11th house can represent the gains or the karma, so the gains or the losses from the work that we put in our 10th house of career. So the 11th house can be a money house, and with Jupiter being here, that is very auspicious for you. So that is awesome. But so, Jupiter expands what it touches. So very social house with your social groups, with your friendships, with thinking big, dreaming. What are your hopes and dreams? What are your goals? Potentially a big, luck and finances, things of those sort. And with Jupiter being here, engaged in this grand water trine all month long, it's also going to be bringing this luck and abundance to your 7th house of relationships and your 3rd house of communication, short distance travel, and like siblings and extended family, and like your local neighborhood, like the places, literally your neighborhood, but also the places you go in your neighborhood, like the grocery store and things like that. So Jupiter is going to be blessing those areas as well as receiving blessings from those areas all month long. So then let's go ahead and talk about your 7th house. So 7th house is where Pisces is. 7th house is the house of more intimate relationships. So it is where we have our intimate relationships with our significant other or spouse. It is also where we have business partnerships. And this house is more where we have like our best friendships too. The 11th house would be more like all your other friendships, right? There's varying levels to friendships and friendship groups. 7th house would be more those best friends. 7th house can also represent our open enemies. And by that, I mean those relationships that once were good relationships, and they may still be good, but like, ex-business partners, ex-romantic partners, things like that. So that is what the 7th house represents. And Pisces, wherever Pisces is in our chart, Pisces is a very compassionate, very loving, very empathic sign, but it also can be a sign where we lack some boundaries, because Pisces energy overall lacks boundaries, because it's all about the oneness, the unity consciousness, things like that. So it can be an area where we struggle with boundaries, and this is an area where Saturn has been working with us for the last 2.5 years. And in this grand water trine, it is both Saturn and Neptune retrograde that are continuing to be activated. So Neptune has been here since about 2011. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. It also is a very dreamy, idealistic, rose-colored glasses. It's where we envision the biggest and the best and the brightest, which is beautiful and helpful, and we all need that. But the problem with Neptune comes in that sometimes it can not be very realistic in its expectations. So we can either be deceived and fall into delusion, or we can deceive ourselves. So we can either be very easily deceived by others or easily deceive ourselves. So that's something that you've been working with since 2011 here. But those movements, those lessons that Neptune is teaching you here about what you want in relationships and things like that, and possibly how you've been deceived and growing through some of those things, has been a longer process. Saturn comes to teach us lessons on a shorter timeline, about 2.5 years in each sign. So it is, both of these are currently retrograde. They've gone back, they both had a brief stint in Aries. Now they've gone back to finish up any lessons that need to be finished up before they move back into Aries next spring. And later this month, Saturn is going to be turning direct, which we'll talk about. But so Saturn has been here to help with the boundaries in your relationships. And it could be that, sometimes we overcompensate for things. It could be that you have too many boundaries in your relationships and too many walls up and things like that, kind of like an overprotection mechanism. And if that's the case, Neptune is here working with you to dissolve those boundaries. Neptune dissolves things and Saturn builds things. Or it could be the other way, where you lack boundaries in your relationships. You give more than you take, and those types of things. And if that's the case, Saturn has really been working with you to put up your boundaries. Not necessarily to put up walls, but to put up healthy boundaries, and to understand what healthy boundaries actually is, that you can love somebody from a distance, right? That you don't have to get involved in their drama or if it's an unhealthy relationship for you, but you still love them, you can do that with boundaries and from a distance. So that is some things that Saturn has been working with you. This Jupiter is potentially bringing some abundance and opportunities to work with these lessons some more, or maybe meeting somebody within your friend group if you're single, or things of that nature. But really, with this grand water trine, number one, you're being asked to go with the flow overall in these areas. So there's going to be lots of dynamic movement in your relationships of all sorts, and you're being asked to go with the flow. But it's also this beautiful, supportive time to work with all these energies together. So maybe, this Saturn and Neptune are bringing more boundaries that you need to your friendship groups, right? Especially with Jupiter here, like, bringing lots of abundance to your friends and that social activity. Maybe this Saturn is really helping you with having some healthy boundaries there as well. So that is really what's going on with your 7th house. And then finally we have your 3rd house. And this is where Scorpio is. So with Scorpio in your 3rd house, this indicates that you are one that really likes deep and meaningful communication, like not necessarily one for surface level conversations and things like that. Like small talk may not be your strong suit, kind of like a like if we're not going to go deep, why are we even talking type thing. So you're always digging for the truth, which is definitely something our world needs right now. But so this is where Scorpio, as I said, is going to be the sign that really keeps this Grand Trine activated all month as the personal planets travel through Scorpio. So like at the beginning of the month, this was on November 4th. So Mars was active here, right? Mars was guiding us and giving the motivation and like warrior spirit to dig deep into the communication, dig deep into the truth, dig deep into the information. And this is also, 3rd house is also, like I said, your neighborhood and siblings and things like that. So, getting active and involved in those things. 3rd house can also be kind of a financial house. All of these can be. I already talked about 11th house, 7th house can be business partnerships, and 3rd house can be, since it's communication and like technology and social media, it can be like marketing campaigns. So there could be that element to it as well. But so, in Mars, maybe you launched something, or when Mars was here, or maybe you were a little bit more feisty in your communication at the beginning of the month, or things like that. And then when the sun comes here to activate this, wherever the sun is, it's shining a light, it's bringing a light to things. So if there's, communication habits or something that need worked on or something like that, the sun is going to really point things out. Or if you're being, deceived in some capacity over here, like the sun is going to shine light on that. And the sun is going to maybe, help you see opportunities that maybe you're missing over here. Like it's going to be really supportive of not only the energy within your 3rd house, but also sending that supportive energy and that light to these other areas as well. And then we also will have Venus coming into this area of your chart. And Venus, represents our finances and our relationships. And so when Venus comes and activates this Water Grand Trine, you might have a lot of potentially financial opportunities coming your way. You might have relationships coming your way, specifically female perhaps, opportunities such as those things showing up for you. And then we will also have Mercury retrograding into these final degrees of Scorpio. And so Mercury retrograde in Scorpio likes to go deep, very internal, very doing some shadow work with your communication, maybe looking at how well you listen versus speak, how you're engaging with social media. You might be like rethinking some things. Not a good time to launch with Mercury retrograde, not a good time to launch any marketing campaigns or anything like that, but it is a good time to finish up any projects, to finish up anything like that. You know, it can be a little bit tricky with communication. Mercury can sometimes bring miscommunication and things like that, but it could be time to review any miscommunication that you've had, where maybe, you know, you've been hurt or other people have been hurt, or just reviewing your communication style overall while Mercury is retrograde, and really going deep and seeing how it affects your friendship groups and your intimate relationships and things of that nature. And then we also are going to be having a new moon in these later degrees later in the month, which will be really bringing a lot of new opportunities, bringing new beginnings to the third house of your chart. So, you know, maybe something related to your community, related to your siblings, related to just communication and information, maybe a educational opportunity, something like that could be showing up for you when the new moon is here, that would be very supportive of the 7th house and 11th house, but, you know, mainly focused on this 3rd house. So the energy is going to be really flowing a lot between these houses. So it's going to be a very active month in regards, like I said, to relationships. Now, also, like I said, when there's a lot of energy flowing, the opportunities that are coming may not be seen, or they may be missed. So you may need some sort of challenge to really activate them, to seize them, etc. So you have all month long this square between Jupiter in your 11th house and Chiron in Aries in your 8th house. So the Chiron in Aries is our wounded like I am. So wherever you have felt small for the sake of others, or stayed small for the sake of others, and this is in your 8th house of intimacy, or, you know, they call the 8th house sex, death, and taxes and things like that, but it really is all about transformation, all about, you know, where we hold our fear and potentially our shame and our guilt and things like that. With it being the house of transformation, it's all about vulnerability and how willing we are to go into our depths, our shadows, those places that we don't even like to look at of ourselves, that we try to forget. But when the 8th house is activated, you're being asked to dive into those places, shine light on it, love it, and heal it. So, you know, all month long you could have, and it's also, the 8th house is intimacy, right? So not only doing that for ourselves, but also holding space for other people to be seen for who they truly are and accepted for who they truly are too. If you can do that for other people and allow them to be exactly who they are, and see them and witness them and still love them, that's all any of us want, really, right? And so, you know, maybe you have a lot of walls up in regards to intimacy because you have this wound of feeling like you can't be seen, like you can't be intimate with others, you can't be vulnerable with others. Well, you're going to be getting a lot of opportunity this month from your friendship groups to work on that wound and to heal that wound. And typically squares, especially to Chiron, are felt, you know, like it's a little bit painful. And with Jupiter, it certainly can be, but Jupiter is a benefic planet, so it's more likely like a light thing, like you're being given supportive energy to help work through and heal these wounds. Perhaps you meet a great counselor through a friend group to work on these wounds or something of that nature. But this might activate you to see the opportunities that are being presented to you through these other areas. The other thing that's going on is all month long between this parade of planets in Scorpio, there's an opposition over here to Uranus, which has retrograded into Taurus. It started the first month up until November 7th in Gemini, but now it is in Taurus. Uranus is the planet of shakeups, of sudden change, of sudden insight and intuition, but it's kind of where we are maybe feel like things are shaken up, but always for our highest and best good. It may not always feel like it, especially in a Taurus energy. Taurus energy is where we want to stay fixed and we might be a little bit stubborn, but that's why Uranus is good to come in there and shake things up, because sometimes we might be too stubborn and holding on to things and unwilling to let things go. And this opposition between Scorpio and Uranus all month long is giving us those opportunities to let things go that need to be let go, and to look at things differently, to like stand on our head and look at it from a different perspective type thing. So that is really beautiful. And then so that's kind of the grand water trine, and then we'll just go through what has gone on for the month. So on the 4th, later this day that's on the screen, Mars moved into Sagittarius, so it is there now. On the 5th, we had a full moon in Taurus. If you want to go back and review the video that I did for the full moon, you can see what that was activating for you in your 9th house of belief systems. Then on the 9th, so just 2 days ago, Mercury turned retrograde in Sagittarius. On the 18th, it will go retrograde back into Scorpio. And then on the 29th, at the end of the month, it'll turn back direct. So Mercury retrograde and all that comes with it will be active for, the second half of the month or most of the month. Today, on the 11th, Jupiter actually turns retrograde in your 11th house. And anytime planets turn retrograde, it does bring the energy more internal. But with Jupiter in particular being the planet of abundance and opportunities, it could be the opportunities that you missed the first time around are coming back around for you in your 11th house of friendships, wealth opportunities from your 10th house, groups that you belong to. There could be opportunities resurfacing, so keep that in mind. On the 19th, we will have the new moon here in Scorpio, and I'll do a separate video for that. And then on the 27th is when Saturn turns direct. And I think it's really beautiful that Saturn is the first of the outer planets to turn direct, because we've been working with this 29th degree last degrees of Pisces for so long, working on releasing what no longer serves us in this area and really trying to tidy things up before we build the new version of us, the new version of the world that we want to see. And you wouldn't build a house by working on the roof first, right? By getting ahead of yourself. And so Saturn being the first one to turn direct, and Saturn representing our foundations, our structure, bringing things into the material is really beautiful. It's really showing that what we are building is meant to last. So, you've got kind of till the end of the month to really consider the lessons that Saturn has been working with you here in your 7th house of relationships. And then once it turns direct, it's time to start putting things into motion. So that is your November forecast. I hope you have enjoyed it. Comment below with how this is feeling for you, what how the energy is going for you so far this month. And I'd love to have you stick around and see you here next month. Have a great rest of your month.